"You can run with the fours, Leslie." He said it loudly enough to make sure Fulcher could hear him, and then concentrated on the runners. "See," he told himself, "you can stand up to a creep like Fulcher, no sweat." Bobby Miller won the threes easily. He was the best of the fourth graders, almost as fast as Fulcher. But not as good as me, Jess thought. He was beginning to get really excited now. There wasn't anybody in the fours who could give him much of a race. Still, it would be better to give Fulcher a scare by running well in the heat. Leslie lined up beside him on the fight. He moved a tiny bit to the left, but she didn't seem to notice. At the bang, Jess shot forward. It felt good, even the rough ground against the bottom of his worn sneakers. He was pumping good. He could almost smell Gary Fulcher's surprise at his improvement. The crowd was noisier than they'd ever been during the other heats. Maybe they were all noticing. He wanted to look back and see where the others were, but he resisted the temptation. It would seem conceited to look back. He concentrated on the line ahead. It was nearing with every step. "Oh, Miss Bessie, if you could see me now." He felt it before he saw it. Someone was moving up. He automatically pumped harder. Then the shape was there in his sideways vision. Then suddenly pulling ahead, he forced himself now. His breath was choking him, and the sweat was in his eyes. But he saw the figure anyhow. The faded cutoffs across the line a full 3 feet ahead of him. Leslie turned to face him with a wide smile on her tanned face. He stumbled and without a word began half walking, half trotting over to the starting line. This was the day that he was going to be a champion, the best runner of the 4th and 5th grades, and he hadn't even won his heat. There was no cheering at either end of the field. The rest of the boys seemed as stunned as he. Teasing would come later, he felt sure, but at least for a moment none of them were talking. "Okay," Fulcher took over. He tried to appear very much in charge. "Okay, you guys, you can line up for the finals." He walked over to Leslie. "Okay, you had your fun. You can run on the up to hopscotch now." "But I won the heat," she said. Gary lowered his head like a bull. "Girls aren't supposed to play on the lower field. Better get up there before one of the teachers sees you." "I want to run," she said quietly. "You already did." "What's the matter, Fulcher?" All Jess's anger was bubbling out. He couldn't seem to stop the flow. "What's the matter? Scared to race her?" Fulcher's fist went up, but Jess walked away from it. Fulcher would have to let her run now, he knew, and Fulcher did, angrily and grudgingly. She beat him. She came in first and turned her large shining eyes on the bunch of dumb, sweating mad faces. The bell rang. Jess started across the lower field, his hands still deep in his pockets. She caught up with him. He took his hands out and began to trot toward the hill. She got him into enough trouble. She speeded up and refused to be shaken off. "Thanks," she said. "Yeah, for what?" he was thinking. "You're the only kid in this whole darn school who's worth shooting." He wasn't sure. He thought her voice was quivering, but he wasn't going to start feeling sorry for her again. "So shoot me," he said. On the bus that afternoon, he did something he had never thought he would do. He sat down beside Maybelle. It was the only way he could make sure that he wouldn't have Leslie plunking herself down beside him. Lord, the girl had no notion of what you did and didn't do. He stared out the window, but he knew she had come and was sitting across the aisle from them. He heard her say "Jess" once, but the bus was noisy enough that he could pretend he hadn't heard. When they came to a stop, he grabbed Maybelle by the hand and dragged her off, conscious that Leslie was right behind them. But she didn't try to speak to him again, nor did she follow them. She just took off running to the old Perkins place. He couldn't help turning to watch. She ran as though it was her nature. It reminded him of the flight of wild ducks in the autumn. So smooth. The word beautiful came to his mind, but he shook it away and hurried up towards the house. That was chapter 3.